it's the 4 P's. It's producing, pain, and punishment for a paycheck. So pain and punishment for a paycheck. So
what's going on, everyone? This is Fighting Words with Kevin Shells. I'm Shells.
Kev, 8 Count Sports, man.
Yes, sir. And tonight I'm excited because we got an exciting guest, an exciting fighter, talented MMA pro, turned up and coming bare knuckle boxing star. Guys, if you love violence and despise Borefest, check this man out on YouTube. BYB, JD, who we got in front of us? JD the Berserker Burns. How's it going, brother?
how's it going, guys? Thanks, man. That's a pretty good introduction.
No, man, no. We appreciate you being here to be introduced. We appreciate you, man. Really do, really do.
Oh, it was a real pleasure, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it. So this is how we're gonna start. Now, you were born in Lakewood, Washington. Can you please describe your childhood for us growing up?
Yeah, sure. Well, I started martial arts at a really young age, but wasn't necessarily any good. I was just, something to do activity-wise when you're a kid. So about 6 years old is when I started karate and lessons for like maybe a year and some change. And then my dad, when I was about 11 years old, enlisted us in Taekwondo classes. And then that started, more or less started the martial art-based career because I heard a comedian say it once before, and I used it a lot when I was a kid. I was one of those teenagers that just had a lot of quit in me more than anything. It was I wanted to be a guitar player, but I didn't want to practice. It was like one of those things. So I want to be a fighter. Push-ups, I don't want to do that. It just wasn't clicking as a kid kind of thing. And during my Taekwondo at 11 years old, middle school age, I took up high school and middle school wrestling. And then during that time as well, whenever I wasn't doing wrestling stuff, my family was a very fight active family. So my dad and my coaches were wrestling coaches for a very high reputable wrestling high school team. And then my dad loved UFC and pride fighting back in the day. So every other weekend there'd be fights on at the house. And then he would be doing seminars with a lot of the fighters, especially when UFC wasn't super big. Getting name brand fighters for like $50 for 3 hours, which is incredible. It can't be
your family was into it before it was cool.
Yeah, there you go. Which is funny because when I was a kid, I didn't like UFC. I didn't like Pride or anything. Just because Pride was like 10-minute rounds. And when you watch it, they're fighting smart. They're keeping, they don't want to waste all the energy. It's very, slow base build. And I was a little fat kid that was like, that's not real fighting. Real fighting is like I used to watch like felony fights or backyard brawls or stuff like bare knuckle stuff. But I was just a dumb teenager that didn't appreciate the technique and skill and training that went into it until a lot older in life. When all my friends were growing up and being doing their regular life or doing their regular based job, I just stuck with it, and that's the only reason I got any better because I wrestled all throughout middle school and high school. And I was like Private Piles from Full Metal Jacket. I wasn't very good at giving all the teammates push-ups because I couldn't work out as hard or anything like that. Taekwondo, I was okay at. I wasn't like the star athlete in anything. And then same with when UFC was very, I don't want to say unpopular, but when it was wasn't well known. Yeah. My dad would take me every once in a while to seminars as well. So I would do seminars with like Robert Follis. I've done maybe 1 or 2 tops with like Randy Couture and Boss and Kevin Randleman when he was still alive for my 16th birthday. My dad took me to it was called a Paradise Warrior Retreat, and it's pretty much like a fight festival. There's like 9 or 10 big name fighters, and then they each will have like a window of time to do what they want to work on that time frame kind of thing. So you get Chuck Liddell showing like his overhand right or something like that, and then there as well. And again, when I was doing all this, I was horrible. I had zero cardio. It was just for the experience. I liked doing it, and it was a great way to pass the time. And then as I got older, like, 15, 16, when I found out very quickly that I was an athlete and not a mathlete, I didn't like doing and it just kind of started to click later on in life. It was like, man, I could actually make a career out of this, or maybe do something more towards this style. So when I was about 14 or 15, I'm still in Taekwondo about this time. My master instructor offered my dad if he wanted to run at one of his own schools for Taekwondo, because my dad was a black belt at that time and helped running classes for him. And on the off time was also showing our Taekwondo instructor, because he's all stand-up, jiu-jitsu stuff. So kind of like getting him in the doorway, like, look, this is okay. Let me show some of this at the gym, and we won't get in trouble. I promise. It's very, back in the day, other sports, jiu-jitsu and Taekwondo, they still don't really mix a whole lot that much until they start like putting their foot in the doorway. And then both of them are like stepbrothers. They're like, okay, they like, oh, do you want to do karate in the garage? Yeah.
All right.
And that's what Master Sean saw. He saw, my instructor saw my dad and me that, did this day and night, nothing else. And he's offered us a school to kind of run for him. And around that time, that was like my defining moment where I'm like, I want to do this for a living. This would be great. So I was about 18 years old when I did my very first MMA fight. And then a week after that, I tested for my black belt. So it kind of like, it all kind of just was like running together kind of thing. But I wanted to be, initially when I started, it was more full-time coach and cornerman and part-time fighter. So I've been at this for like, I want to say almost 14 plus years now since I've had my gym and run stuff. But if you look at my fight records, they're not even out of the double digits yet, just because I would do a fight every other year, and then I would worry about my team and make sure they were getting ready for fights and building up that time. And then I didn't start going full-time fighter until I went to bare knuckle, just because of the whole before COVID, every other week I would have fighters that I would corner for. So whether it be kickboxing or boxing or Muay Thai or jiu-jitsu, there was something always going on to where I was like, my teammates first and then me. Teammates first and then I'll anything left, then I'll do a fight kind of thing. Yeah. And then COVID and everything shut down. I didn't have a team anymore to like build off of. So man, I figured out really quick that I was a social butterfly. And then when I didn't have any of that, it was like, shoot, dude, I need to do something, or I'm going to chew up the floors and carpet like a dog. I have nothing to have this energy build up and have nothing to show for it. And then when that happened, that's where I made the decision to be like, all right, I'm gonna maybe be full-time fighter and still coaching corner no matter what, but really look into if I have a combat or a fight coming up that I just my base stuff.
Okay.
Oh, that's that's an awesome answer.
I just keep going. You guys can stop me.
No.
Keep going. We are not here to stop you. This is about you.
Growing up, you said that you were an athlete, not a mathlete. I was neither. So at least you got one, right? So, were you into any other sports?
That's the funny part. A lot of my buddies, they went and did football or basketball. I found out really quickly I can't throw or catch to save my life, and I figured out really quick how to tackle somebody or punch and kick them like way quicker. So the closest thing I ever did to any type of sports would be like Christmas football with all the buds or something, or what we used to do back. They back in the day, but they used to call it kill the guy, which means whoever had the football, you just ran and tackled. If that guy fell on the ground, you threw the football in the air.
Yo, I'm not gonna. In junior high, we had a game called it was a game just like that. But we played it with a hat. So like it was like whoever had the hat, we were trying to tackle him. Yeah, trying to kill him, and he had to throw that. I forgot the name of the game. That was one of the funniest games in junior high, though. So I love that. Yeah, I can relate to that.
Oh yeah, it's the thing. It was a lot of sport rules or lingo that a lot of my friends already knew, and they didn't want to explain. When you're a kid, they're like, it's, you know, fourth down, whatever, and you're like, cool, are we winning? I know, like, it didn't register. No matter what, I can look. Who's winning? Oh, the guy not bleeding and on the ground.
Yeah.
Like, it's way quicker to follow. So
yes, it's true. But let me ask you, speaking of your childhood, your dad was very much into the fight game. Are you a natural southpaw, or is that something that was? And the reason why? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. One of my boxing coaches that I had for a while, and at first, when I first started, I'm like, hey, go to your bread and butter, stay in your good stance. Because when everybody starts off, they're like, well, I feel my power in my right hand, so why shouldn't I have it done? And then you explain stuff where you're like, well, you want your more build up power in your backhand and stuff like that.
Right.
But when I went up against my very first southpaw as an amateur, it was just such a foreign experience that he welted me up pretty good. He ruptured one of my wisdom teeth, and I had like a big bump on the side of my head for like 8 months, just this huge hematoma. Yeah. And it was, and my boxing coach brought that up where he told me, he's like, anybody can knock anybody out with the right hand. It's that left hand they never ever see coming. And all of my fights, just by accident, not even trying, I just throw volumes of punches. My left hand just so happened to clip and drop the guy in like 3 or 4 fights. To where when he said that, it was like, oh yeah. Everybody's looking at doing this. They don't even see this coming. Dropping the guy. It's like, wow. So my last professional MMA fight was a main event fight, and I came out southpaw just because, just last second thing. And I threw a straight left and knocked him out in 9 seconds. And it was just,
you saw that.
And that it just kind of clicked where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this more often and scare the tar out of people. So not even southpaw, but just if you just switch feet in between, and as long as you know how to keep yourself safe, like it really does enough where even if they're whooping you in orthodox, now they have to recalibrate as soon as you switch feet and coming at them at a different angle. So then it's, especially if that guy's a better orthodox than me. I'm going to try my southpaw out. It's what MMA has taught me, switch it up for him.
Nice.
You spoke about entering to bare knuckle boxing during the COVID years, because it was just something you could put your energy into, because the world was shut down basically, and there was less opportunities to get to MMA competitions. How exactly did BYB reach out to you, or did you have to reach out to them? Like, how did they get to know about you and things of that nature?
Well, actually, which is funny. So that the bare knuckle, the 9-second knockout was just a few months right before COVID happened, and that was as soon as that dropped, I was like, boom, I'm going to use this video footage like Tony Hawk sponsored me, and just send this to them and be like, hey, this is what I got. I'm this much amount of fighting, and it's just like auditioning. If they want you, they'll take you. If not, they won't, kind of thing. And I was
okay.
And right when COVID happened, everything shut down. And the first 2 months was just like a snow day for anybody. It was like, cool, there's no work, there's nothing to do.
Right.
And after 2 months of that, like, I started getting really bummed out and sad, and it was just, it was just a really bad thing. And more than anything, I started, because everything was closed, I started hosting sparring sessions in my backyard with my other team fighters. I started keeping, my gym couldn't be open. So I could only do one-on-one private set. Like, I had to keep anything to keep martial arts going. And everything else was shut down. Bare knuckle boxing was like one of the first things that is still popping up and letting people fight in Florida. So like, before my very first fight with BYB was at in 2021 in like May or so. But I was scheduled to fight a few months prior to that. I had a different fight manager at the time. It was just very we just had more of a falling out. But he initially got me to fight, and it was like a few week notice. They're like, hey, these guys really want to fight. Would you want to be on the card? And they were what's a Trigon and everything. And I was like, yeah, sounds great. It sounds like a Mortal Kombat level. And it was in the Miami, Florida Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. So like my brain is already like, because this in my head, COVID's been happening so long that it's like, shoot, we might not have another event. This could be my only time to actually have another fight. So it's not into auditioning mode. It's not in like, oh, we're back on the track. It's this might be your last one. Just have as much fun as you can, create as much violence and havoc, and do what I do best, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm there the day of the fight. They're wrapping my hands and my wrists, and they're like, "Hey, you're fight number 6. Be ready." And I'm like just a kid in a candy shop. I'm just all giddy and excited. And like 20 minutes pass, and there's one of the runners are just walking to me really slow, and he's like, "Hey man, I'm really sorry. Your opponent's medicals didn't go through, and you're not going to be able to fight today." And like my hands are wrapped, and I'm like I'm forced back. Okay, like I'm trying so hard not to be like, hey, that one dream you had about being a bare knuckle fighter, it's gone. And like, and I was just at the time just really torn and like sad, and I didn't think I'd get another chance. So right after that happened, I was texting the matchmaker and the promoter and just making sure. I'm like, hey man, I'm still down to fight. Just give me another opportunity. If anything, I just really want one. I normally fight at 155 as an MMA. I never fought any heavier. Even when I was middle school wrestling, that's how much I weighed back then. Like I was just a fat kid, and then I just stretched out pretty much. Like it was the same. When a bare knuckle happened and that happened, I was like, I'll even jump up 2 weight classes just to fight. Like just to show I should belong in there with those animals. And a couple months go by, and they give me another fight opportunity, and it's about like a 2-week notice. It's like, yes, I got it. I've been doing nothing but working out in my house and COVID lockdown, like it's prison. Like I'm ready. Let's go do it. And when it happened, and they reached out or whatever. 175, which I've never, if you look at my very first fight, like I look like Shaggy covered in tattoos, and the guy I'm fighting is just a polygon of muscle, and it's like, and come to find out as well, the day of weigh-ins, he missed weight by about 11 pounds.
11 pounds?
So I'm going up 2 weight classes, and the guy missed weight by 11 pounds. And before COVID and before my brain was a little sad and everything, if I missed weight by like 2 pounds, I had no problem back in the day being like, no, I'm not fighting, and just, take my ball and go. And that sadness hit, and they're like, your guy's 11 pounds overweight. And I was waiting for them to be like, you can't fight. They were just being like, what do you want to do? I'll fight fair. Dude, just give me a little more money. I'll fight him. I don't care. Just don't take this one away from me. Like, I just need this more than anything. And probably in hindsight, it was not the greatest idea because I got lumped up pretty good in that fight. But it was, I'm a firm believer, like the movie Dodgeball. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. And going up in weight class and being beaten to a merciless pulp, and then going back down 2 weight classes, fighting guys that no matter how muscly they are, they're never going to be as big as that first guy. It was a lot more load off the brain of what ifs or anything like that.
I just wanted to ask something real quick because your story about fighting being like, it sounded like fighting was like a refuge for you, like a refuge, especially for like your mental state and things of that nature. It sounded like the story of Volkanovski. After when he took that short notice fight against Islam, and during his post-fight interview, he said, he basically said, yo, they didn't keep me busy because, when I'm not fighting, I'm in a dark place. How much was you able to relate to Volkanovski when he was making that kind of, because I'm seeing the parallels between your story and his story when he spoke about it in the interview.
Yeah, well, I look at it a lot, and people, the best way to like layman's term is some people have AA, other people have religion. I have combat sports and martial arts. Like the people who had a congregation of people, you look to other people that are leaders, that are good followers at that, and whatever they practice, what they preach, kind of thing. And it really is like I've had this as this is my dream job. This was my prison. This was my vacation. Like everything I've done is anything I should say that's that was very the upbeat side of it, or very positive side of it, was all because of martial arts based background. So even even if I didn't fight for a living, some people that are just weekend warriors, just being able to go to your church or your training session twice a week, 3 times a week, get settled out. Like if you've ever seen, okay, for most fighters, like I don't know about Sean Strickland or like the Diaz brothers, where they'll fight on a notice, who cares kind of thing. Yeah. But most guys do this for a living. That I get up in the morning, I do private lessons, I do my classes, I coach, and then I work out. Guys that fight all of the time just want to go home and watch SpongeBob and think of no fighting. Like it's just trying to. But yeah, I look at it like some of the worst things that ever happened to me. Even during the COVID shutdown, there was a really low point in my life in that, and like, fighting's always there. Like if anything, anybody that's usually had a really hard life is probably a really good fighter. Any of those guys. The Kazakhstan fighters, any of those dudes that are like, I was like 5-6 years old throwing fist fights at kids twice my age. And then they're like, hey, we'll pay you money to do what you do naturally. And they're like,
yeah.
It just, it's aggression, but it's positive aggression. That's the big difference. You can only fight somebody for so long, pissed off and angry. But if you're having a lot of fun beating that guy to a pulp, chances are you're not going to get doing it. You're just a big dopey Doberman throwing haymakers. So, but yeah, and that's the best part about the art of martial arts. Like, some people look at the sport like a baseball card. They know all the stats. They're like, this guy has 27 million knockouts. He's got so many submissions. He can kill you with a napkin. And it's not wrong. Art's never wrong. So if you want the baseball card stats of fighters, it's great. If you want the movie quote stats of fighters, or something where it's like, oh, this, people always ask me, they're like, what are your favorite fighters? And one of the main ones I always say is Stephan Bonnar. And I was, they're like, ask anybody, they're like, what's your favorite fight of Stephan Bonnar? And 90% of the time they're like, oh, the Forrest Griffin fight. Right. Like, okay. Oh, because it was the fight that made UFC, and it was this. And I was like, he didn't even win. And that was one of his most memorable fights. The sport's not called fighting, it's called fighting. And the more you get the people into that aspect of like experiencing it, usually are like way more entertaining to watch fight in general too. And you can, like I said, the people that treat fighting like church or a congregation, they can smell it on other fighters, the way they conduct themselves, the way they talk, where you can just sit there and be like, his life is probably a lot like mine, even though we're, live in different areas. Just kind of like that movie Fight Club, where they're like, how'd you get the black eye? And he's like, I'm not supposed to tell you. And you're like, I know. Don't worry, I'm a member. It's totally cool. It's kind of like that. It's just, how people carry themselves. And but anybody that always said or treated it like it's keeping me out of a dark spot, or it's keeping me in that, the positive side of life, I'm a full, a firm believer in that, man. It changed my life for the positive and the better. And I always told all my buddies that like bar fighting, I'm like, dude, just come in my gym and fight. You don't go to jail. People give you awards. Like, it's great, man. And it's on all positivity, if anything else.
That's what's up.
Let me ask you, piggybacking off of that a little bit, what would you say is your best attribute? I mean, you have the skills. You've grown up around the sport, but you went to a dark. When I watched these matches, these bare knuckle matches, quite a few of them that I call your resume a blue collar resume. This is not Floyd Mayweather 41-0. You're a fighter's fighter. I've seen you you dropped twice in the Arcane fight, in the Arsenio fight, and you come back and win that fight. These fights are Toro Gotti every time. Like, and what would you say is your best attribute? Is it your skill set? Is it your resilience? Is it your chin? Is it like what would you say? Like, what would you say is your best attribute?
I would tell a lot of people, they're always like, "What's your secret weapon?" Or what would you tell other fighters? And I was like, if you don't have fear of pain or failure, you can go really far in the sport. So if you're not, every time I ever thought of an outcome, what if I win the fight, or what if this happens? Like, my adrenaline, just like gambling, you're like, ooh, this would be really fun. And the moment I stop thinking just you're like, man, I just would really like to punch this guy in the face 15 or 16 times. Really, like my brain stopped going to the aftermath and just, experiencing it more than anything else. It's and more than anything else, the late great Robert Follis, he was a coach for like Randy Couture and Matt Linlin, and just a bunch of fighters that are just very scary, either on the ground or stand up. And he said, and it's still to this day I use every single time, which is the difference between nervousness and excitement. The only difference is what your face is doing. Everything else is the feeling, the same anxiety, the same. And I'm so nervous I can taste it. But it's this. So if you see in the I get knocked out. Even when I get hit so bad I fall out of the ring, they wake me up. I'm still smiling. I'm like, oh my God. Woo! All right, let's go to the next one. Like, it really, it changes a lot the way you perceive it. The more you're just this way, chest out, big smile, and at the seminars, he'd be like, everybody look glum, everybody hunch their back, everybody just feel this way, and however you were, conducting yourself, your brain would start doing it that way. So it would really be when I go out to fights. I don't have like seasonal things anymore. That's for my kiddo, like Christmases and birthdays and all that. My Sweet 16, my Christmas, my quinceañera, everything. My holidays in my head where I'm like, this is the greatest day of my life. I die tomorrow. This is the greatest day. Like whether that's true or not, it's just, it's a better way to fight. Because like I said, you don't get tired when you're like pissed off at it. You're just like, this is it. This is what I wanted to do. I'm riding this wave right now. Let's positive aggression.
I want to go back to your very first fight in BYB. It was in BYB 5 against Carl Perez Jefferson.
Yeah.
And in that bout, you seem to have suffered a injury to your right knee in the first round due to how you fell from a headbutt. Now describe to me how difficult it was for you, because speaking of what Kevin just said, like you just keep going, like you don't stop. How difficult it was for you to continue to fight with a right knee that was compromised?
It was, and to be honest, that very first fight when I was in there, even though my adrenaline was like, let's do this, let's fight, I'm ready. It was still kind of like a big shock. So I didn't know. I watched quite a few bare knuckle boxing matches.
Okay.
And it always is, okay, somebody's going to get hit right in the mouth and then it's lights out. And then during that fight, after about 50 plus punches of us going back and forth, I could read his mind just like he was reading mine. We're like, dude, one of us should have been dead by now. Why are we still? And the first initial punch or the headbutt, he got me with a body shot.
Okay.
And he into me. And I didn't know until after the fight was over and I rewatched the tape. But initially, he got the body shot and then his shoulder checked me on the ground. And then come to find out, it was it was his head that bumped into me. And it wasn't anything like impact wise. It just felt kind of weird when I went down on it. And then, which is funny. This was my first boxing and bare knuckle, everything. And in MMA, first thing I get exhausted, I can feel it in my chest. I'm like, okay, these are going to be some grinding rounds. This one, the boxing, I'm not even kicking. And the first things that went out were my legs because I was like run punching this guy, trying to get as much down. So after my knees were kind of wonky and I wanted to throw a punch, after about 2 or 3 punches and I didn't step forward, that's why I'd start falling in the fight where I'd be like, ah, dang it. Everybody saw that. I'd get up, try to be like an angry kid again and go swing some more punches. But it's a lot like bare knuckle boxing is a lot like drinking whiskey. After the first couple shots, you're pretty numb and having fun. So he punched a hole. Like the first round, he hit me and my tooth went through my lip. And you can't see it in the video, but I could stick my tongue out of my mouth into my lip side. And right after that punch, everything else was just really blunt, numb punches as opposed to like stabs after that. And then I was able to, march forward. But
and win.
You can't, you don't think about your knee when you're getting punched in the eye anymore. You're like,
yeah. Well, let me ask you seem to have a love for fighting in general. Can I ask you, would you more specifically, would you ever consider going back to MMA? Or is it bare knuckle is what it is for you?
Oh, I'm totally down to going back to MMA at some point. I'm like I said, there's some people that are the baseball card people.
Yeah.
I'm the entertainment, and I just like entertaining people more than anything. So
Gotcha.
that's why when people describe my style, I always like to say kamikaze, because I should be on the outside, but I might get booed. I don't want to be booed, so I just run forward and I'll bite your punch right out of the air. I don't care. Like I'm in it for the people that are in the crowd that are watching, or the people that are at home watching, because after a while, pay-per-views get so expensive where family's not going to watch it unless I bleed out or something fun. Come on, guys, I'm make it kind of thing. Hence the Stephan Bonner, where it's like you just fight and you express yourself in fist fighting, and people watch and really enjoy it after that.
Could you describe to us like how was it like fight in a trigon as opposed to any other combat sport arena?
It's insane, man. It's so much fun. Like they say it's the smallest combat surface area in sports, but I don't know if you guys ever seen the phone booth Muay Thai fights.
Yes, I see that.
Yeah, so I feel weird saying it's the smallest surface when I see that, and they're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
But ours is the second smallest, I would like to say, and it is very within 2 or 3 steps backwards, you're in a corner. So now it keeps the fight exactly how I like, because every time you back up, I can't run in and go berserk anymore. I have to, readjust. But if you back up too far, you get right into a corner right away. So now it's literally stand in the middle and position yourself, kind of like in school when you have lockers on both sides of you. You better be in. So, yeah, it was when I fought. I don't know if you guys seen the fight when I was in London, but the London fights in the O2 arena, they had to make the trigon even smaller for it to fit on the stage. So like and I'm 6'2", and I could lay down and I could like starfish out and touch every way of the rope, it seemed like.
Wow.
And the guy that fought was Lionel Levici.
Levici, yeah.
You can't miss that fight. I WWF right through a tape.
Yeah, so that was a crazy one.
He threw a shot, and the first shot he hit me with, like I felt my head hit, and like
I saw it.
Leaning back, but I guess I hit the ground, and I'm like, I think he just hit me. So I got back up. I'm like, I'd like to see you try that again, bro. And then he did it 2 times, and I was like, stop hitting me. You're really accurate. Knock it off. But in my 14-year fight career period, I've never been knocked out. That was the first time ever being like totally unconscious. As soon as I woke up, my brain was like, oh, that was the worst thing that could have happened. Oh, that was easy. Like I was totally unconscious. I didn't feel a thing. That was great. I'm ready for round 2. But yeah, after you get knocked out, you have like a 90-day suspension, and then they jump you back in. So, but yeah, it was the Trigon is very, and that's another thing I love about it, because it's the entertainment aspect. It's something different. Yeah. Before the bare knuckle rules were unified a few months ago, our organization had these like gauntlets. They were 4-ounce wrists. They look like bowling sleeves. So it goes over the thumb and it goes over the back part of your hand, and it was a good amount of padding. So instead of just having him hit my forearms with bare knuckles, I would have almost like a shield, like a 4-ounce glove, to be able to get used to the movement wise. And our organization was the only one that had it, and a lot of people didn't like it. Some of the fighters would go without it, but I just liked it just because of the style, and it made it more of a signature thing to our organization. So it was a lot more these guys fight triangle, and they got these little nifty hand wraps too. Like it just made it look really cool. Just in general, the whole atmosphere of it, very kind of like live music, where it's like, that's not my jam. I don't know jazz, but if you went to go see it live, you're like, all right, that was pretty cool. Like that's this about fighting. Like you just all of a sudden are in a foreign arena type with a trigon for a ring, and then no gloves, and everybody just going bananas in the crowd. It's one of the funnest feelings ever. So definitely a watch, if especially.
That describes all your fights. All your fights are a definite watch. And that actually leads into my next point. The first fight I seen of you made me say, we gotta interview this guy, was your fight against Alan Arzenio. And Yes, I believe it was in Miami. And you, it's my favorite quote by you, and I think it described your moniker, which is the Berserker. You said, "Whether I win ferociously or lose violently, I guarantee your ticket money." Describe that mentality. Where does that come from? Like, what made you? Was that a practice quote? Did that come from the moment? Like, where does that come from? What's that mentality come from, bro?
It's just that same mentality, like Robert Fowler said. It's not called winning; it's called fighting. And a lot of people are so worried about that win that they're like, I don't care if I get booed out of here laying on the guy for 10 rounds. I want that win for my baseball card records, as opposed to go. And that's how I was. I was like, I don't care if I lose horribly. Don't want the crowd to boo. I want everybody to remember this fight. That's every time. That's why I say, if you're not worried about pain or failure, you can go a lot farther than some guys are terrified about that, or your martial art career can expand more wide range because of that. So, especially in bare knuckle, that's why I like it a lot, because I used to say as well, one guy's bleeding, it was a good fight. If both guys are bleeding, it's probably fight of the night. Bare knuckle, somebody's always bleeding, so I couldn't use that anymore. And that's you don't have to either guy. In bare knuckles, somebody's gonna bleed. Like it's a pit bull versus a 3-legged cat. That's all right, cool, whatever. But like a pit bull versus a pit bull, two guys that are killed and want to do this. It puts on
show.
Yeah, and I'm more for a show than I am for a perfect record. So that hence why how my record's 3 wins and 3 losses, where I tell everybody, go watch my 3 losses and you'll still be entertained. You'll be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, oh, but
definitely.
Yeah, I'm very big into the entertainment entity of the whole art part of it.
And we appreciate that.
That remind me of Michael Chandler. That sound like the spirit of Michael Chandler. That's like one of those type dudes. Like, yo, we here to make a show. Where does the name Berserker come from? Because when I said it describes it perfectly, because when people who don't know the history, like that's what a berserker is. Like those one of those Viking warriors who like they went in there with no armor, no shield, no this what they saw, and they went crazy. And that's just how you go. Like, was that name given to you? Was that name earned through the way you fight? Like, how was that name bestowed upon you, bro?
It was pretty much within my first 3 amateur fights ended within the first round, and they were all with triangle chokes. But initially, that's my first couple fights. My mentality was, I don't know if I'm the best, but I definitely don't want this guy winning with no scratches on his face. So my whole brain went out and take a tooth if you're going to take this win from me. And I would just go nuts and run at the guy. And in MMA, when you throw any spinning heel or spinning back fist, anything, you get 2 of those and they'll back up and they just do a panic shot and then they took you down. So the whole reason I would get triangle chokes is because they would initially take me down after I would like mosh pit run at them at that point. And then about my 3rd fight in, my dad used to be my corner man for most of my amateur and part of my pro career. And after my 3rd or 4th fight, he's just like, yeah, dude, it's like Berserker. And we'll call you Berserker. And I was like, And then after that, after they were like, oh, it's Berserker, then my brain would go into, well, I don't want to make my name lie. And then I would just always, I'm, like I said, I'm very big for people's feedbacks and stuff. I don't even care if it's negative. Like, it doesn't bother me. It's still stuff where it sits in there and I can be like, okay, I need to work on that. And general admission crowd, people that aren't there to see you, they'll let you know right away. They can't smell death half a foot away from them if they're insulting you. They're like, oh, this guy hit me or anything. But like, I'll listen to everything, man. I don't, it helps me figure out what people like, what they don't like. And a big percentage of the people that never met me before my fights, they would always come up and be like, dude, holy Jesus, that first 3 punches. Wow, that was random. Whether I won or lost, I have an ice pack on my face going, thanks, bro. I did that. It's at that point. It's the 4 P's. It's producing, pain, and punishment for a paycheck. So pain and punishment for a paycheck.
Producing, pain, and punishment for a paycheck. I like that. That sounds cool. I like that.
Let me ask you. You said your dad was in your corner. How was that? I know, because I mean, was he? I mean, you're the berserker. I mean, was he okay with that? Did he want you to kind of, fight a little more cautiously, or use the jab a little more, or was there any kind of friction with that, or were you guys okay? Because I know a lot of times in boxing, the father-son dynamic, you hear great stories and then not so much. So how was that dynamic with you guys?
I initially, because I saw my dad fight, he did an amateur pride fight when I was about, I want to say like 13 or 14 years old. And then since then, I would always, I was the little dumpy teenager. Dad, I want to fight. Dad, I want to fight. He's like, all right, win state wrestling and I'll let you fight. And my dumpy ass was like, done. I'm going to do it. Jump forward. I didn't have enough, push through and stuff. And then finally, when I got old enough, about 18 years old, 17, 18, I've been, running the gym for a few years with him. I was doing taekwondo. I was doing wrestling. I was doing jujitsu seminars. I was doing jiu-jitsu competitions and not belted in jiu-jitsu and, getting first place at those competitions. So my dad's initial thing was like, hey, these guys don't know taekwondo they don't know anything about traditional martial arts. Throw a back kick at him He was all gung-ho about throwing the spinny, crazy stuff that people didn't know about that we knew. So we always used to think traditional martial arts is like a secret weapon. So, and then the first couple of fights would just be that. He'd just be like, all right, go out and kill him. And then another thing he would tell me a lot of the time was, all right, you ready? You amped? You excited? We have no health insurance. All right, go have fun. Don't get cut. Go have fun. And then he's like, all right, yeah. And then, we'd go from that. That was another big thing was no matter what, smiling makes it hurt less and it's cheaper than insurance. And it does, it works.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Speaking of going forward, like tell us, bro, what's next for the Berserker? What's next move forward? Like, are there any more up and coming BRB bouts? Anything that we should know about, that the fans should know about?
Yeah. Well, actually, BYB has a show on tonight, and they and that's the nice part. All of the promotions are free to watch on. It's called the BEIN Sports app. It's BEIN, and and all the ones that I'm not in, I always watch just like homework, whether it's my weight class or not. It's just fun to experience and going, okay, that was the most entertaining fight. I got to do something just as fun or just as crazy as that one, and build up into it. And I'm really hoping. March will be possibly my next fight with BYB, and then I have a couple different things down the line that I'm really thinking about, and but I really love the bare knuckle aspect of it. So whether it's the bare knuckle boxing or possibly bare knuckle MMA, I don't know if you guys are you ever familiar with Top Dog or what is it called? Street. Oh, I'm blanking all of a sudden. King of the Streets. There we go.
I've heard of King of the Streets. I've heard of King of the Streets. I feel like they put stuff up on YouTube, like clips and things like that. I feel like I've seen that.
Yeah, it's bare knuckle everything. Biting is allowed. Eye gouging is allowed. You fight on concrete, and you only get paid if you win. And it is a lot of fun to. Now, granted, I probably am not going to do that, but events. And I one of the guys that fought on those events, I ran into, and he fought on one of the BYB cards, and I got to hear a lot more about that kind of thing. And it's the same thing. I started seeing stuff like that where it was just a different. It's still martial arts. It's just a different twist or a different set of rules where people don't know it. They're intrigued to be like, all right, I'll watch the first couple. It's got a triangle ring. All right, I'll watch it. Let me see what this like. It's just get that nice little niche. And there's a couple of different shows that are venues that I'm really looking towards possibly in the future. I don't want to say the names of them quite yet, but they're pretty. You guys would definitely know the names of the cards if I said them. But that's the goal, is for entertainment purposes. So don't get me wrong, I'm not going to spit on a UFC opportunity. If they ask me, they're probably not. No. But if that's cool. But like
we're gonna tag Dana White in this interview.
Oh, thank you. I'm more into like UFC is like the big time Marvel movies, those big superhero movies. Yeah. They're great. I love them. Don't get me wrong. but they can't beat the cult classics, just like the bare knuckle everything else. All the other stuff, it's its own little niche thing, and I'm really big into the cult classic stuff right this second. And the next couple fights, I've already had my head thought out to where, you know, win or lose. That's what I said. I never want the three-legged cat, because if I get beat up by a three-legged cat, I'm never going to hear the end of it. So I might as well die by a gigantic bear coming at me, kind of thing. So, but yeah, I'm hoping March we'll get some more fight news, and it'll most definitely be BYB again. They're awesome. I love their event more than anything.
Please let us know, man. Let us know. You know, we got the Instagram. Just let us know so we can put it out there. Yo, once again, JD the Berserker Burns, we appreciate you taking time out your day to come and talk with us. We really appreciate your presence. We really appreciate your fights overall. We appreciate the entertainment that you dish out. You say that you go in there to fight, and trust me, we see it. And bro, like I said, man, keep going on, keep pushing, keep us updated with what you're doing next, man, so we can put it out there.